Vic Braden, the tennis court is a mistake center. If you've been playing tennis for any length of amount of time by now, you know you're going to miss and you're going to miss a lot. But don't feel bad, even pros make tons of unforced errors. I've been going through this very large database of footage I have and organizing files, and I did notice I have some really important footage to show you guys. One thing that comes to mind is that when pros do miss, they miss long. They probably miss long 4-to-1 in terms of how much they miss wider in the net versus long. Now granted, these errors are usually from a neutral or defensive area on the baseline, but I think it's really important to note why these errors are long and not wider in the net. The first thing to note is that pro players know to make the game easy for themselves first and hard for their opponent second. This is because high-level players know that reducing the amount of unforced errors coming from their side is priority number one. So they're not worried about their strengths or weakness, or even their opponent's positioning necessarily. They just know they gotta hit this ball hard and they gotta hit this ball deep. Whereas recreational players try to do too much relative to their opponent. They're going, well, my opponent's here, so if I go a little bit more over here, I can run him more or hit it away from him. But the problem is a little bit more over there is out. These are what I call opponent avoidance errors. It's just not worth it. There's only 3 places you can miss on a tennis court: wide, in the net, or long. If you're trying to hit deep centered, you're eliminating 2 out of those 3 places. That just makes sense. One thing to note is if you're hitting a deep centered ball and your opponent is still forcing against you and pushing you around, the problem isn't that you're hitting the ball to them, the problem is just that they're better than you. The speed of the ball does matter, and this is a great opportunity for you to improve as a tennis player. But rather than trying to hit the ball further away from them to smaller targets, you need to just try to hit a bigger rally ball. One way to help this, other than changing your perception of not playing your opponent but just playing the court, is when you do your cross-court training, try to bring your target in more to the center. Also try to go higher over the net. By eliminating the net and the wide miss, you've just eliminated 2 out of the 3 places that you can miss. So when you do miss wider in the net, when is a good time for that to happen? Well, obviously never. The idea is to not miss the tennis ball. But as we already discussed, we know that is going to happen. Well, when you are in these neutralizing deep rallies with your opponent, you're basically waiting for one of 2 things. Either 1, they're going to make an error, or 2, you're going to get an opportunity. Maybe a weaker ball in the offensive area of the baseline, maybe a higher short ball. Now it's time to pull the trigger. You knew when to hold them, now it's time to fold them. Well, here's the catch. You know how when you get that easy sitter in the middle of the court, you go for the winner and you miss it in the net? Then you say to yourself, oh, I always miss the easy ones. Well, the problem is nothing's easy in tennis. In fact, when it is time to force in tennis, typically you're going lower over the net and closer to the sideline. I would say it's just as hard, if not harder, to hit a forcing shot than just a deep rally ball. I'm sure if you've been to a few pro events, you've seen a coach throwing up easy sitters to a pro player and them just working on going cross court and down the line away from the middle. This is important. You should be doing the same thing. It's actually really easy to do because the pace of the incoming ball doesn't have a huge effect on your swing path, so you can just go out and throw balls up to yourself and practicing angling off forehands and going down the line, just trying to keep the ball out of the middle of the court. Now, I will give another warning here. You have to remember there are 2 kinds of mid-court balls. There's putaways or forcing shots, and then there's approach shots. Now, if you're treating approach shots, these are lower balls, you're running to get to them. If you're treating those as putaways, you're making a mistake. Those are balls you should be playing deeper, moving through the ball, trying to set up a volley. Now, the problem is a lot of people don't like their volley. If you're not comfortable finishing with volleys at the net, you're gonna have a tendency to go for too much on these approach shots. Make sure you can identify the difference and practice all the shots you need. Thanks again for tuning into this video. Lots more to come from the tennis library as I organize this footage. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time.